I sent her £540,000 over 2 years. We never met. I never even made it to the Philippines. And when I finally asked her to show me proof she was real, she vanished. This is how I lost everything to a woman I thought I loved. I was 62 years old when Margaret died. 62 and completely lost. We'd been married for 37 years. 37 years of shared breakfasts, stupid arguments about the thermostat, holidays in Cornwall, and quiet evenings watching telly together. Then cancer took her in 8 months. Just 8 months from diagnosis to funeral. I didn't know how to exist without her. The house in Surrey felt like a museum. Everything reminded me of her. Her reading glasses on the nightstand, her coat still hanging by the door. I couldn't bring myself to move anything. My daughter Emma kept calling from London, asking if I was eating, if I was sleeping, if I needed her to come down. I told her I was fine. I wasn't fine. I was drowning in silence. It was late one night in March when I got the message. I'd been scrolling through Facebook for hours, looking at nothing really, just trying to fill the emptiness. I'd commented on some travel group post about the Philippines, something about beaches I'd never see. Then a notification popped up, a message from someone named Kristelle Santos. "Hi Philip, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I saw your comment about traveling and you seem like a kind person. I'm Kristelle from Cebu. I just wanted to say hello." I stared at that message for a long time. Her profile picture showed a young woman with long dark hair and a shy smile. 22 years old according to her profile. Beautiful. Too beautiful to be messaging someone like me. I almost didn't respond, but then I thought, what's the harm? It's just a message. "Hello, Kristelle. Thank you for reaching out." "That's very kind of you. I'm Philip. How are you this evening?" She responded within minutes. We started talking. She asked about my day, about where I lived, about what I did for work. I told her I was a retired civil engineer. I told her about Surrey. I didn't tell her about Margaret yet. That felt too heavy for a first conversation. "You must have an interesting life, Philip. Building things, creating structures that last. That's beautiful work." No one had called my work beautiful in years. Margaret used to, back when we were young, but after decades it just became my job. Now here was this young woman on the other side of the world saying my career mattered. We talked until 2 in the morning. She told me she was studying nursing at Cebu Doctors University. She wanted to be a midwife someday, to help bring new life into the world. She said her family didn't have much money, but education was everything to them. Her mother was sick with diabetes. Her father had passed away when she was 15. She was trying to build a better life. "I should let you sleep, Philip. It must be very late where you are." "It is, but I've enjoyed talking with you, Kristelle. Really enjoyed it." "Me too. Can we talk again tomorrow? I'd like that very much." The next night she messaged at the same time. And the night after that, within a week, it became routine. Every evening around 10, my phone would buzz and there she'd be. We moved to WhatsApp so we could message more easily. She started sending photos. Pictures of her campus, her textbooks spread across a small desk, selfies with that same shy smile. She looked so genuine, so real. 2 weeks in, she asked about why I seemed sad sometimes in my messages. I tried to deflect, but she was persistent, gently persistent. "You can tell me, Philip. I'm a good listener. My professors say that's my best quality as a future nurse." So I told her. I told her about Margaret, about the cancer, about how I watched her fade away and couldn't do anything to stop it, about how the house felt empty now, about how I felt guilty for still being here when she wasn't. I cried while typing, actually cried, sitting alone in my kitchen at midnight, pouring my heart out to a stranger across the world. Her response came through 5 minutes later, and I knew she'd taken time to write it carefully. "Philip, I'm so sorry for your loss. What you went through sounds unbearably painful, but please don't feel guilty for surviving. Your wife, Margaret, she would want you to be happy again. She would want you to live. You deserve to feel loved. You deserve to have joy in your life again. I can tell you're a good man, a kind man, and the world needs more of that." I read that message 10 times. Then I put my head down on the kitchen table and sobbed. For the first time since Margaret died, someone made me feel like I wasn't broken. Like maybe I could be whole again. Thank you, Kristelle. You don't know how much I needed to hear that. I mean every word, Phillip. And I'm here whenever you need to talk, day or night. Just message me. From that moment, something shifted. The conversations became deeper, more personal. She told me about her dreams, her fears, her struggles with money and school. I told her about my life, my marriage, my regrets. She never judged, she just listened. Every night I looked forward to seeing her name pop up on my screen. It was the only thing that made me feel alive. One night, about a month in, she sent me a voice message. I'd never heard her voice before. I pressed play. Hi, Phillip. I just wanted you to hear me say this. You make me feel safe. I never had someone care about me like this. About my thoughts, my day, my feelings. Most people just see a poor nursing student from the Philippines. But you see me, really see me. Thank you for that. Her voice was soft, careful with her English, sweet, in a way that made my chest ache. I listened to that message 3 times before bed, then once more when I woke up in the middle of the night. I saved it. Even now, after everything, I still have it saved on my phone. I don't know why I keep it. Maybe as a reminder of how easy it is to believe what you desperately want to hear. The video calls started 6 weeks in. She'd been hesitant at first, saying her internet was terrible, that she looked awful in the mornings, that her room was too small and messy. But I insisted. I needed to see her, to know this was real. When her face finally appeared on my screen, pixelated and freezing every few seconds, I felt something I hadn't felt since Margaret got sick. Hope. Hi, Phillip. Can you see me? The connection here is so bad. I can see you. You're beautiful, Kristelle. She laughed and covered her face with her hands. Don't say that. I'm not wearing makeup. I just woke up. You don't need makeup. You're lovely. The calls never lasted more than 5 or 10 minutes before the connection would drop. She said the internet in her area was unreliable, that she was using data from her phone and couldn't afford much. I offered to pay for better internet. She refused. No, Phillip, I can't let you do that. You've already been so kind just talking to me. But I wanted to help. For the first time since Margaret died, I had a purpose. Someone needed me. Someone appreciated me. I set up a TransferWise account and sent her £50 without telling her first. She called me crying. Phillip, why did you do this? I can't accept this. It's nothing, Kristelle. Truly. It's for your phone data so we can talk more. Please, it makes me happy to help you. You're too good to me. Thank you. I don't know what to say. After that, the gifts became regular. 100 here for her textbooks, 50 there for her mother's medicine, 200 when her laptop broke and she needed it for school. She was always grateful, always hesitant, always trying to refuse before accepting. That made it feel more real to me. She wasn't asking. I was offering. There's a difference. At least that's what I told myself. Our conversations evolved beyond the superficial. She told me about her mother, Nanay Elena, who had type 2 diabetes and couldn't afford proper treatment. She showed me pictures, an older woman with tired eyes and Kristelle's same smile. She told me about her dreams of working in a hospital in Manila someday, of sending money back home, of giving her mother a better life. My father died in a jeepney accident when I was 15. Since then, it's just been me and Nanay. She worked 3 jobs to put me through high school. Now it's my turn to take care of her. But nursing school is expensive and her medication costs so much. Some days I don't know how we'll make it. You're incredibly strong, Kristelle. Your mother must be so proud of you. I hope so. I just want to make her life easier. She sacrificed everything for me. I started imagining what it would be like to visit her, to meet her mother, to see the Philippines. Margaret and I had talked about traveling more after I retired, but then she got sick and those dreams died with her. Now here was a chance for something new, something that felt like a second chance at life. My daughter Emma called one Sunday afternoon in May. She lived in London, worked as a solicitor, Visited once a month out of duty more than desire. We'd never been particularly close. I was always working when she was growing up, and Margaret handled most of the parenting. Now, with Margaret gone, we struggled to find things to talk about. Dad, I've been thinking about you. How are you really doing? I'm fine, Emma. Getting by. Are you eating properly? The house isn't too much for you? I'm managing. Actually, I've been talking to someone. A friend. It's been helpful. A friend? That's good, Dad. Is it someone from the pub? George? No, not George. Her name's Kristelle. She's from the Philippines. We met online. There was a long pause. I could hear the skepticism even through the silence. Online? Dad, you need to be careful with that sort of thing. There are a lot of scams targeting people your age. She's not a scam, Emma. She's a nursing student. We just talk. She's been very supportive. How long have you known her? A couple months. And before you say anything, yes, I know what you're thinking, but it's not like that. We're just friends. She listens to me. That's all. Have you sent her money? Just small amounts. For her education. For her mother's medication. Dad, please tell me you're joking. You've known her for 2 months, and you're already sending money? This is exactly what scammers do. They prey on lonely people and... She's not a scammer, Emma. I know the difference. I'm not some senile old man who can't think for himself. I didn't say that. I'm just worried about you. Mum's only been gone 8 months and... Don't bring your mother into this. I know how long she's been gone. I know exactly how long. And I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to find some reason to get up in the morning. Kristelle makes me feel like I matter. Like I'm not just waiting around to die. Emma went quiet again. When she spoke, her voice was gentler. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I just want you to be safe. Please promise me you'll be careful. I promise. But Emma, you don't understand. She's not like that. After we hung up, I felt angry. Angry at Emma for not trusting my judgment. Angry at myself for getting defensive. But mostly I felt afraid. Afraid that maybe she was right and I was too blind to see it. That night I almost confronted Kristelle about it. Almost asked her directly if she was real, if this meant anything, if I was just a transaction to her. But when she messaged me, her words were so sweet, so genuine, that all my doubts evaporated. I was thinking about you today, Phillip, about how lucky I am to have you in my life. You're like an angel sent to me when I needed someone most. I wish I could hug you right now and tell you in person how much you mean to me. I read that and felt my heart swell. This was real. It had to be real. No one could fake this kind of affection. I sent her 200 pounds that night for her upcoming tuition payment. She tried to refuse. I insisted. She thanked me with a voice message. You make me feel safe, Phillip. I never had someone care like this. I listened to it 3 times before bed, just like I always did, just like I'd done with that first voice message. Listening to her voice made everything feel solid, real, like she was right there with me instead of thousands of miles away. I started calling her my angel after that, and she called me her guardian. We were building something. I was sure of it. I was so sure. The first real request came in September. 6 months into our daily conversations, Kristelle messaged me in the middle of the night. Her time, the message was frantic, full of typos, not her usual careful writing. Phillip, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I don't know what to do. Nene collapsed today. Her blood sugar was too high. They took her to the hospital, but we don't have money for the treatment. They want 1,200 pounds before they'll admit her properly. I tried to borrow from neighbors, but no one has that kind of money. I'm scared, Phillip. I'm so scared she's going to die. I was in bed when the message came through. 2 in the morning in Surrey. I sat up immediately, my heart racing. I called her. The phone rang 6 times before she answered, and I could hear her crying. Phillip, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have messaged you. It's not your problem. Don't say that. Of course it's my problem. I care about you. I care about your mother. Tell me what you need. The hospital, they say they need payment up front. Otherwise, they'll only do basic care. But Nana needs insulin and monitoring, and I don't know. They used all these medical terms I didn't understand. All I know is she could die if they don't treat her properly. How much do you need exactly? 1,200 pounds. But Philip, I can't ask you for that. It's too much. I'll figure something out. I'll drop out of school and work full time. Stop. You're not dropping out of school. Give me your bank details. I'll transfer the money now. Philip, no, I can't. This is too much. You've already done so much and… Kristelle, please, let me help. Your mother needs treatment. We'll worry about everything else later. She gave me the information. I transferred 1,200 pounds through TransferWise. It processed within minutes. She called me back, still crying, but this time with relief. Thank you. Oh God, Philip, thank you. I'll pay you back. I promise I'll pay back every penny. Don't worry about that now. Just focus on your mother. Let me know how she's doing. I will. I promise. You saved her life, Philip. You saved my Nene's life. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Needed, useful, important. Margaret used to need me for things, for fixing the dripping tap, for reaching high shelves, for holding her hand in the hospital. Now Kristelle needed me, and I could actually help. Her mother recovered. Kristelle sent pictures from the hospital. Nene Elena in a bed, hooked up to an IV, looking fragile but stable. Kristelle beside her, exhausted but smiling. She sent a voice message. Philip, she's going to be okay. The doctor said if we'd waited another day, it could have been too late. You saved her. I don't know how I'll ever thank you. Seeing her recovered is thanks enough. I'm just glad she's all right. But something changed after that. The conversations weren't quite as frequent. Kristelle would sometimes take hours to respond when before she'd always replied within minutes. When we did talk, she seemed distracted. I asked if everything was okay. I'm just stressed, Philip. School is hard. Taking care of Nane is hard. Money is tight. I'm sorry if I seem distant. Don't apologize. I understand. Is there anything I can do to help? No. You've done too much already. I need to handle this myself. 2 weeks later, another crisis. Her landlord was threatening eviction. 800 pounds owed in back rent. Her mother's medication had drained their savings, and now they were behind on everything. She didn't ask directly. She just mentioned it in passing during a call, her voice heavy with defeat. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we can stay with my aunt in the province. But then I'd have to leave school. The university is in Cebu and her place is 3 hours away. I'd have to drop out. But at least we'd have somewhere to live. How much do you owe? 800 pounds. But Philip, I'm not asking you for money. I just needed to talk to someone, to tell someone how hard this is. I want to help. Let me send you the rent money. No, absolutely not. You already helped with Nene's hospital bills. I can't keep taking from you. You're not taking anything. I'm offering. Please, Kristelle, let me do this. She hesitated for a long time. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, could picture her biting her lip like she did in photos when she was thinking. Okay, but I'm paying you back. I'm keeping track of every pound. Once I graduate and get a job, I'll pay you back everything. You don't need to. Yes, I do. It's important to me. You're not my bank, Philip. You're my friend, and I don't want money to ruin that. I sent the 800 pounds. She thanked me. The messages became more frequent again for a few days, then slowly tapered off. This became the pattern. Crisis, money, gratitude, distance. Crisis, money, gratitude, distance. Each time the amount was a bit larger, her tuition was due, 2,500 pounds, or they'd drop her from the program. Her mother needed a new medication that cost 1,800 pounds for a 6-month supply. Her laptop died and she needed a new one for her online classes, 600 pounds. Each time she apologized. Each time she promised to pay me back. Each time I sent the money within hours. I kept a mental tally at first. 1,200, 800, 2,500, 1,800, 600. But after a while I stopped counting. What did it matter? She needed help. I had the money. I was retired with a decent pension and Margaret's life insurance. The house was paid off. What else was I going to spend it on? My friend George from the local pub noticed I'd stopped coming around. He showed up at my house one Saturday afternoon unannounced, carrying a 6-pack of bitter. "All right, Phil, what's going on? You've missed 5 straight quiz nights. That's not like you. Just been busy, George. Come in." We sat in the living room. He looked around at the mess, the unwashed dishes visible in the kitchen, the post piled up on the table. He didn't comment on it. "So what's been keeping you busy? You're retired. How busy can you be?" "I've been talking to someone, a friend, online." "Online? Like a dating site?" "No, nothing like that. We met on Facebook. She's from the Philippines. Her name's Kristelle." George's face changed immediately. The friendly smile dropped. He set down his beer carefully. "Phil, mate, please tell me you haven't sent her money." "It's not like that, George. She's not a scammer. I know what you're thinking, but have you met her in person?" "Not yet. But we video call all the time." "Video call. Right. And let me guess, the connection's always bad? Pixelated? Cuts out after a few minutes? Her internet isn't great, but... And she's had emergencies? Family members who need hospital care? Rent problems? School fees?" I felt my jaw tighten. "Her mother was sick. She needed treatment. Was I supposed to let her die? Phil, you've never even met her. You don't know if any of this is real. These operations, they're sophisticated. They target lonely men, especially widowers, and they play on your emotions until... Get out." "What?" I said, "Get out, George. I don't need this. I don't need you coming into my house and calling me stupid." "I didn't call you stupid. I'm trying to help you, mate. I've read about this. There are whole networks of scammers in Southeast Asia who do this for a living. Kristelle is not a scammer. She's a nursing student. She has dreams and struggles, and she's been there for me when no one else was. Not you, not Emma, her. So unless you have something constructive to say, I'd like you to leave." George stood up slowly. He looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe grief had turned me into someone he didn't recognize. "All right, Phil, I'll go. But please, just be careful. Margaret wouldn't want you to..." "Don't you dare tell me what Margaret would want. You have no idea what she'd want." He left without another word. I stood in the doorway watching him walk to his car. He looked back once, shook his head, then drove away. I closed the door and went to my computer. Kristelle was online. I messaged her. "How are you today, Angel?" "Hi, Phillip. I'm okay. Tired, but okay. How are you?" "Better now that I'm talking to you." I sent her another 200 pounds that night, just because I could, just because it made me feel good to see her gratitude, just because everyone else seemed to think I was foolish, and I wanted to prove them all wrong. I wanted to prove that what Kristelle and I had was real, that I wasn't being scammed, that I was helping someone I cared about. But late that night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what George said, about the pattern: crisis, money, gratitude, distance. I looked at my phone. Kristelle was online, active 2 hours ago. But she hadn't messaged me goodnight like she usually did. I sent her a message. "Sleep well, Angel. Talk tomorrow." She read it immediately. I could see the check marks turn blue, but she didn't respond. Just read it and went offline. I stared at my phone for 30 minutes waiting for the 3 dots that would indicate she was typing. They never came. I fell asleep with my phone on my chest, wondering if maybe, just maybe, everyone else was right and I was the only one who couldn't see what was right in front of me. But when I woke up the next morning, there was a message from her. "Good morning, Phillip. Sorry I fell asleep early last night. I was exhausted. Hope you slept well. Talk soon." And just like that, my doubts disappeared again. She was just tired, just busy, just stressed. Of course she was. She was a nursing student caring for a sick mother. What did I expect? For her to be available every second of every day? I was being paranoid. I was letting George's words poison my mind. This was real. She was real. We were real. I had to keep believing that. Because if I stopped believing, what did I have left? By the time we hit the 1-year mark, I'd sent Kristelle over 80,000 pounds. 80,000 pounds. I didn't realize it until I was reviewing my bank statements one afternoon and actually added up all the transfers. It had happened so gradually that I'd never really understood the scale of it. A few hundred here, a few thousand there, but altogether, 80,000 pounds. More than I'd ever spent on anything except the house. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the numbers. My savings account, once comfortably full with 200,000 pounds from years of careful planning and Margaret's life insurance, now showed just under 120,000. Where had it all gone? I knew where it had gone. Hospital bills, rent, tuition, medication, living expenses, Kristelle's laptop, her mother's treatments, emergency after emergency after emergency. I looked at my phone. Kristelle hadn't messaged in 3 days, not unusual anymore. Sometimes she went silent for a few days, then would reappear with an apology about being busy with exams or caring for her mother. I'd gotten used to the pattern, but this time felt different. This time there'd been no warning. We'd been talking normally, making plans for me to eventually visit, and then nothing. Radio silence. I messaged her. Kristelle, is everything okay? I haven't heard from you. The message was delivered but not read. Hours passed, then a day, then 2 days. On the 3rd day, I called. It rang once and went to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. She was declining my calls. My chest felt tight. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. Then, on day 4, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Emma standing there with an overnight bag and a determined expression. Hi, Dad. I'm staying the weekend. We need to talk. Emma, I'm busy. Now's not a good time. Make time. This is important. She walked past me into the house. I followed her to the kitchen where she set down her bag and pulled out a folder. A thick folder full of printed articles and bank statements. My bank statements. I felt a surge of anger. How did you get those? Those are private. You gave me access years ago when Mum was sick. Remember? In case something happened to you and I needed to handle your finances. I've been monitoring your account, Dad, and I've been watching you throw away your retirement. It's my money, Emma. I can spend it however I want. On what? On someone you've never met? Someone who might not even be real? She's real. We video call. I've seen her. Have you? Have you really seen her? Or have you seen a pixelated face on a screen with convenient technical difficulties? Dad, I printed these for you. She spread the articles across the table. Headlines jumped out at me. Romance scams. Target widowers. Filipino woman arrested in 2 pounds. Million online dating scam. How to spot a catfish. Warning signs. You're being scammed. I pushed them away. Kristelle isn't a scammer. You don't know her like I do. And you do know her? Really know her? What's her address? She lives in Cebu, near the university. What's the exact address? What street? What building number? I don't know the exact address. She's moving soon because of landlord issues. When's her birthday? I opened my mouth and realized I didn't know. We'd talked for a year and I didn't know her birthday. What's her mother's full name? Elena. Nanay Elena. Nanay isn't a name, Dad. It means mother in Tagalog. What's her actual name? Her surname? I haven't. We don't talk about those details. We talk about important things, feelings, dreams, real things. Emma's expression softened from anger to something worse. Pity. She pulled out my bank statements and pointed to the highlighted numbers. You've sent her 82,000 pounds in 12 months. Dad, that's almost half your savings. The savings you and Mum spent 40 years building. You've taken out a 30,000 pound equity loan on this house. This house you own outright. You're burning through your pension early. At this rate, you'll have nothing left in 2 years. Nothing. You'll lose the house. You'll lose everything. It's not like that. She needs help. Her mother is sick. School is expensive. Once she graduates and gets a job, she'll pay me back. Has she paid back a single penny? She will. She keeps track of every pound. She promises. Dad, listen to yourself. You're defending someone who's taking your money and giving you nothing in return. Not even her time. When was the last time you had a real conversation with her? Not a crisis, not an emergency, just a normal conversation. I tried to remember. When was the last time we'd talked about something other than money? When was the last time she'd asked about my day, about my life, about anything that didn't involve her needing something? I couldn't remember. The realization hit me like a physical blow. She's been busy. With school. With her mother. It's been a difficult year for her, and she's made it a difficult year for you. Dad, please. I'm begging you. Stop sending money. At least for a while. If she really cares about you, she'll understand. She'll still be there. If she disappears the moment the money stops, you'll know what this really was. No, I'm not going to test her like that. She's struggling and I'm helping her. That's what you do for people you care about. Emma stood up. Tears were running down her face now. You care about her more than you care about me. More than you care about your own future. More than you care about honoring Mom's memory. That money you're sending, that was supposed to be your retirement. Yours and Mom's. She died before she could enjoy it. And now you're giving it away to a stranger. Don't bring your mother into this. She's already in it. You used her life insurance money. You used the savings you both built together. You sold her jewelry. Yes, Dad, I noticed. Mom's ring is gone. Her necklace. The sapphire earrings Grandma gave her. Where are they? I looked away. I couldn't meet her eyes. I needed the money. For Nana Elena's surgery. She would have died without treatment. Or maybe no one was ever sick. Maybe there was no surgery. Maybe there's no Elena. Maybe there's no Kristelle. Maybe it's a man in an internet cafe using stolen photos and a fake story. Did you ever think about that? Get out. Dad, I said get out. Take your articles and your accusations and leave. You don't understand. You weren't there after your mother died. You didn't see how dark everything was. Kristelle was the only light, the only thing that made me feel like living, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else take that away from me. Emma gathered her papers slowly. She looked at me one more time. I love you, Dad, but I can't watch you destroy yourself. When you're ready to see the truth, call me. Until then, I need to protect myself. This is too painful. She left. I heard her car start and drive away. I sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by those articles, by the proof of my own stupidity laid out in black and white. But I didn't want to see it. I couldn't see it. Because if Emma was right, if Kristelle wasn't real, then what was I? A fool? A lonely old man so desperate for connection that he'd believe anything? No, Emma was wrong. She had to be wrong. My phone buzzed. Finally, after 4 days of silence, Kristelle was calling. I answered immediately. Kristelle, thank God. I've been so worried. Are you okay? She was crying, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. Phillip. Oh God, Phillip. Something terrible happened. Nene collapsed again. Her kidneys are failing. The doctors say she needs emergency surgery or she'll die. They want 15,000 pounds. 15,000. I don't have it. I've called everyone I know. No one has that kind of money. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. I'm going to lose her. My hands were shaking. 15,000 pounds. I'd just been arguing with Emma about money, and here was another crisis. But this was her mother's life. How could I say no? How much time do we have? They need a deposit by tomorrow morning. 10,000 pounds as a deposit and the rest after the surgery. Phillip, I know I've asked too much already. I know you've done so much. But I have no one else. If you can't help, I understand. I'll figure something out. Maybe I can sell my things. Maybe I can borrow from a loan shark. I don't know. I just don't want her to die. I checked my bank balance on my phone. 120,000 pounds remaining. If I sent 15,000, I'd have 105,000. Still enough to live on. Still enough to get by. I'll send it. Philip, are you sure? This is so much money. I promise I'll pay you back. I swear on my life I'll pay back every penny. Don't worry about that now. What's your bank account number? She gave it to me through her tears. I logged into my bank account and set up the transfer. £15,000. Processing. Approved. Done. Just like that, another chunk of my future gone. I sent it. You should have it within an hour. Oh God, Philip. Thank you. Thank you so much. You saved her life. Again. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're my hero. You're my angel. I love you so much. She'd never said that before. I love you. 3 words I hadn't heard since Margaret's last lucid moment in the hospital. 3 words that made everything worth it. I love you too, Kristelle. Take care of your mother. Let me know how the surgery goes. I will. I promise. Thank you, Philip. Thank you for everything. She hung up. I sat in the kitchen holding my phone, Emma's warning still echoing in my head. But Kristelle had said she loved me. She'd said I was her hero. That had to mean something. That had to be real. I refused to believe I'd spent £82,000, now £97,000, on a lie. But I couldn't get another loan. The bank had already declined me once. I needed that $15,000 from somewhere. I went upstairs to the bedroom. Margaret's jewelry box was mostly empty now. Just a few pieces left. Her engagement ring was long gone, sent off to a pawn shop for £12,000. Her sapphire necklace, gone. The earrings her mother gave her, gone. But there was still her pearl bracelet, the one she wore on our wedding day, the one she said she'd pass down to Emma someday. I held it in my hand, feeling the weight of it, the smoothness of the pearls, the ghost of Margaret's wrist. I'm sorry, I whispered to the empty room. I'm so sorry. But she needs me. I have to help her. I drove to the pawn shop the next morning. Got £800 for the bracelet. It wasn't enough to make up for what I'd sent, but it was something. It was proof to myself that I was doing everything I could, that I was a good man, a helpful man, a man who kept his promises. When I got home, I messaged Kristelle. How's your mother? Did the deposit go through? The message was delivered, but not read. Hours passed, then a full day, then 2 days. Just like before, just like it always was after I sent money. Silent, distant, active on WhatsApp but not responding to me. Last seen 2 hours ago. Last seen 4 hours ago. Last seen yesterday. I stared at my phone until my eyes hurt, at the empty jewelry box, at the bank statement showing my dwindling savings, and for the first time, a thought crept in that I'd been fighting for months. What if Emma was right? What if George was right? What if I was the only one who couldn't see the truth? I looked at Margaret's photograph on the mantel, the one from our 25th anniversary. She was smiling, holding my hand, looking at me like I was her whole world, and I'd sold her jewelry to send money to a woman I'd never met, a woman who might not even exist. I picked up Margaret's empty jewelry box and held it to my chest. The words came out in a whisper, barely audible even to myself. I'm sorry. I thought I was doing something good. I thought I was saving someone, but maybe I was just trying to save myself. 2 weeks of silence. 14 days of checking my phone every 10 minutes. 14 days of seeing last seen timestamps that proved she was active but ignoring me. 14 days of messages delivered but not read. I'd sent her 23 messages, each one more desperate than the last. Kristelle, please just let me know you're okay. I'm worried about you and your mother. If I did something wrong, please tell me. I miss talking to you. Are you angry with me? Please. Just one message so I know you're alive. Nothing. Not a word. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I'd lost nearly a stone in those 2 weeks. The house was a disaster. Emma hadn't called since our argument. George had stopped trying to reach out. I was completely alone, staring at a phone that stayed silent except for spam calls and alerts from my bank about low balances. Then, on day 15, late in the evening, she called. I grabbed the phone so fast I nearly dropped it. Kristelle? Hi, Philip. Her voice was quiet, tired, different from before. I'm sorry I haven't messaged. It's been difficult. Is your mother okay? Did the surgery happen? Yes. She's recovering. It was touch and go for a while, but she pulled through. The doctors said if we'd waited even a day longer, she wouldn't have made it. Relief flooded through me. Thank God. I've been so worried. Why didn't you message? I sent you so many texts. I know. I'm sorry. I've been at the hospital constantly. And Philip, I've been feeling so guilty. You've given me so much money and I have no way to pay you back. It's eating me alive. I feel like I'm taking advantage of you and I hate it. I hate feeling like a burden. You're not a burden. I want to help you. But it's not fair to you. You deserve to spend your money on yourself, on your life, not on mine. Sometimes I think maybe we should stop talking. Maybe that would be better for you. Panic seized my chest. No, please don't say that. You're not a burden. You're the only thing that makes me happy. The only thing that matters to me. Please don't disappear. I just feel so guilty. Then let me visit. Let me come to the Philippines. I want to meet you in person. I want to meet your mother. I want to see where you live and go to school. Please, I need to see you. I need to know this is real. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, could hear hospital sounds in the background, the beep of machines, the murmur of voices. Philip, I don't know if that's a good idea right now. Nene is still recovering and our place is so small and messy. I'd be embarrassed for you to see how we live. I don't care about any of that. I just want to see you. Face to face. Please, Kristelle. I'm booking a flight. I want to come next month, November. We can celebrate your mother's recovery. We can finally spend real time together. Philip, I've already decided. I'm looking at flights right now. There's one to Cebu on November 18th. One way. I'll stay as long as you need me, as long as you'll have me. One way? Philip, you can't just move to the Philippines. Your life is in the UK. Your daughter, your home. My daughter won't speak to me. My home is just a house. You're the only life I have left. Let me come, please. She went quiet again. When she spoke, her voice was strained. Okay, but not November, not yet. Give me until December. Nene needs to be stronger, and I need to prepare the house. I want everything to be perfect when you come. I want to make you proud. Can you wait until December? Of course. December. I'll book a flight for early December. Wait, Philip. Before you come, there's something I need. The house, it needs repairs before you arrive. The roof is leaking. The bathroom doesn't work properly. It's falling apart. I'm so ashamed to bring you here like this. If you're going to visit, I need to fix it first, to make it suitable for you. And there it was, the ask, the reason for the call. I felt something crack inside my chest, but I pushed it down. I had to believe her. I had to. How much do you need? 8,000 pounds. But Philip, I hate asking. I hate it so much. Maybe you shouldn't come. Maybe this is a sign that I'll send it. Tomorrow. Give me your bank details again. Are you sure? This is so much money. I'm sure. I want to come. I want to see you. If fixing the house makes you feel better about my visit, then it's worth it. She gave me the bank details. I wrote them down. 8,000 pounds. I didn't have it in my checking account anymore. I'd have to take out another loan. But I couldn't tell her that. Couldn't let her know how broke I actually was. I'll transfer it tomorrow. Start making the repairs. I'll book my flight for December 15th. That gives you a month to get everything ready. Thank you, Philip. I promise I'll make everything perfect. And I promise that once Nene is fully recovered and I graduate, I'll pay you back every single pound. I keep a record of everything. I know exactly how much I owe you. You don't owe me anything. This is what people do when they care about each other. They help. I love you, Philip. I can't wait to finally meet you in person, to hug you, to show you around Cebu. It's going to be wonderful. I love you too, Kristelle. Get some rest. I'll talk to you tomorrow after I send the money. We hung up. I sat there feeling a mix of hope and dread. Hope that I'd finally meet her. Dread about what Emma would say when she found out. Dread about the money I didn't have. But mostly hope. After 18 months of talking, I'd finally see her face clearly, touch her hand, prove to everyone that this was real. The next morning I went to a different bank, applied for an £8,000 personal loan. The interest rate was ridiculous, nearly 20%, but I needed the money. They approved it by afternoon. I transferred the money to Kristelle's account. She messaged me 2 hours later. Received. Thank you, my love. You're making our dreams come true. My love. She'd called me my love. I held onto those words like a lifeline. I booked the flight, one way to Cebu, December 15th, £1,200. I bought it on credit. I'd worry about paying it off later. I started buying things for the trip, new clothes, gifts for Kristelle, a gold bracelet I saw in a shop window, perfume, dresses in her size, a laptop bag for her studies, chocolates, everything I could think of that might make her smile, another £2,000 on my credit card. The debt was piling up, but I didn't care. I was going to see her. Finally, I counted down the days, made lists of things to say, practiced conversations in the mirror, imagined what it would be like to hold her, to see her smile in person instead of through a pixelated screen, to meet her mother and tell her how grateful I was that she'd raised such an amazing daughter. 3 weeks before my flight, Kristelle messaged me, "Phillip, I need to tell you something. The house repairs, they found more damage than they expected. The foundation has problems. They need another £5,000 or they can't finish the work. The house will be in worse shape than before." I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't have £5,000. I didn't have anything left. My savings were down to £70,000. I had 2 loans out. My credit cards were nearly maxed. I couldn't borrow anymore. The bank had already told me no, but I'd already bought the plane ticket. I'd already told her I was coming. If I backed out now, I'd lose her. I'd lose everything. I went to a high-interest lender. One of those places you see with the garish signs promising fast cash now. They gave me £5,000 at 40% interest. I signed without reading the terms. I sent the money to Kristelle. She thanked me, told me the house would be beautiful, told me she couldn't wait to see me. The days crawled by. I packed and repacked my suitcase a dozen times, made sure I had my passport, my medications, all the gifts. I messaged Kristelle every day confirming details. What time should I arrive? Should I get a hotel for the first night? Did she want me to bring anything specific from the UK? Her responses got slower, shorter, less detailed. I chalked it up to her being busy with finals and caring for her mother and managing the house repairs. But something felt off. Something felt wrong. 2 weeks before my flight, she stopped responding entirely. I messaged her every few hours. "Kristelle? Are we still on for December 15th? Please respond. I'm getting worried." Nothing. The messages were delivered. Sometimes they were read, the blue check marks showing she'd seen them, but she never replied. 1 week before my flight, I called her. The phone rang once, then went to voicemail. I tried again, same thing. She was declining my calls. I left a voicemail. "Kristelle, it's Phillip. I'm confused about what's happening. My flight is in 7 days. Please call me back. I need to know if I should still come." No response. 5 days before my flight, I tried one more time. "I don't understand what I did wrong. Please just tell me. If you don't want me to come, just say so. Don't disappear on me. Please, read." But no reply. 3 days before my flight, I accepted the truth. She wasn't going to respond. She was gone. Again, just like every other time after I sent money. But this time felt different. This time felt final. The day before my flight, I sat in my bedroom, surrounded by wrapped gifts and packed suitcases. My phone was in my hand. Last seen 5 hours ago. She was online. She was active. She just wasn't talking to me. I drafted one final message. "I'm supposed to fly to Cebu tomorrow. I've spent the last 18 months talking to you every day. I've sent you over 100,000 pounds. I've sold my wife's jewelry. I've taken out loans I can't afford. I've alienated my daughter and my friends, all because I believed in you, in us. If you don't want me to come, just tell me. I'll cancel the flight. But please don't just disappear. I deserve at least that much. I sent it. Waited. The message was delivered, then read. The blue check marks appeared. She'd seen it. She'd read every word. The 3 dots appeared. She was typing. My heart hammered in my chest. The dots disappeared, then appeared again. Disappeared, appeared. She was writing something, deleting it, writing again. Finally, after 10 agonizing minutes, a message came through. Philip, I'm sorry. This isn't a good time. Please don't come yet. My mother's condition got worse again, and the house isn't ready, and I'm overwhelmed with school. Please wait, maybe in a few months. I promise we'll meet, just not now. Not now. Maybe in a few months. The same thing she'd been saying for 18 months. I typed a response. When, Kristelle? When will it be the right time? I've waited 18 months. I've done everything you've asked. When do I get to see you? No response. The message was read, but she didn't reply. I called her, declined. I called again, declined. I called 10 times. Every single time, declined. She was choosing not to answer, choosing not to talk to me, choosing to disappear. The next morning I woke up and the flight was in 6 hours. I sat on the edge of my bed holding my phone, checked WhatsApp one more time. Last seen yesterday. I called one final time. Straight to voicemail. She'd turned off her phone, or blocked me. I drove to Heathrow, checked in, went through security, sat at the gate and stared at my boarding pass. Cebu, one way, 1,200 pounds. All the hope I had left printed on a piece of paper. The final boarding call came. I didn't move. I watched everyone else board. Families, couples, solo travelers heading off on adventures. The gate agent called my name. Final call for Philip Morrison. I stood up, walked to the counter, looked at the agent. I'm not going, sir. This is the final call. The plane is about to depart. I know. I'm not going. I need to cancel. She looked at me with concern. Sir, this is a non-refundable ticket. If you don't board, you'll lose the entire fare. I know. It's fine. I'm not going. I walked back through the airport, past the duty-free shops, past the restaurants, past all the people heading to their destinations. I drove home in silence, walked into my house and saw the wrapped gifts on the table, the packed suitcase by the door, Margaret's photograph on the mantel looking at me with her kind eyes. I sat down on the floor right there in the hallway and I didn't leave for 4 days. I just sat there, phone in hand, waiting for a message that never came. I don't know how long I sat in that hallway. Time stopped making sense. Day blurred into night. My phone died at some point and I didn't bother charging it. I just sat there in the dark with Margaret's photograph and the unopened gifts and the truth I still couldn't face. Eventually my body made me move. Thirst, hunger, bathroom, the basic needs that keep you alive even when you don't want to be. I charged my phone. 47 missed calls from Emma, 16 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. I opened WhatsApp. Kristelle's profile picture was gone. Just a blank gray circle. Last seen 3 days ago. Then I noticed something. I couldn't see her status anymore. Couldn't see when she was online. I tried to send a message. A red exclamation mark appeared. You can't send messages to this contact. She'd blocked me. After 18 months, after 100,000 pounds, after everything, she'd blocked me. I sat on my kitchen floor and something inside me finally broke. Not broke like it had been bending, but shattered. Completely. I started pulling out bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. Spread them across the floor. Started adding numbers, 1,200, 800, 2,500, 1,800, 15,000, 8,000, 5,000, on and on. The numbers blurred together. Final total? £114,000. And that was just the direct transfers. That didn't include the loans, the interest, the credit card debt, the gifts I'd bought that were sitting unopened on my dining table. When I factored everything in, the real number was closer to £130,000, more than half my life savings, more than Margaret and I had saved in 40 years of marriage. I started laughing. Sitting there on my kitchen floor, surrounded by papers, I laughed until I couldn't breathe, until the laughing turned to sobbing, until I was making sounds I didn't recognize as coming from my own body. I'd sent £130,000 to someone I'd never met, someone who had now blocked me, someone who might not even exist. But I needed to know. I needed to know if she was real, if any of it was real, if there was a Kristelle and a sick mother and a house in Cebu, or if I'd been talking to a stranger in an internet cafe using stolen photos and rehearsed lines. I needed to know the truth even if it destroyed me, especially if it destroyed me. I searched online for private investigators in the Philippines, found a company in Manila called Pacific Investigations. They had good reviews, specialized in romance scams and missing persons. I called them. A man answered. Pacific Investigations. This is Carlos speaking. Hello, I need help. I need to find someone in the Philippines, in Cebu. Can you do that? Yes, sir. That's what we do. Can you tell me more about the situation? I told him everything. About Kristelle, about the 18 months, about the money, about the block number, about how I'd never met her but had sent her over £100,000. I expected him to laugh, to tell me I was stupid. He didn't. Sir, I'm sorry, but this sounds like a romance scam. We see these cases frequently. Usually the person is not real, or they are real, but working with a syndicate. What information do you have on this woman? I have her phone number, her bank account details, photos, her address in Cebu. Send me everything. My email is on our website. Our fee is £3,000 up front. We'll investigate and provide you with a full report. Usually takes 2 to 3 weeks. If we can locate her, we'll attempt contact. If we can't, we'll verify whether the information you have is legitimate or fabricated. £3,000. I didn't have £3,000, but I needed answers. I took out another credit card cash advance, sent him the money, emailed him everything I had. Every photo Kristelle had sent, screenshots of our conversations, her bank details, the address she'd given me, her phone number, everything. I'll start immediately. Check your email in about 3 weeks for the report. Those 3 weeks were the longest of my life. Longer than waiting for Margaret's biopsy results, longer than the 18 months of talking to Kristelle. Because this was the end. This would tell me the truth. And I was terrified of what that truth would be. I tried to keep busy. I couldn't. I barely left the house, stopped showering, stopped eating properly, just sat and waited. Emma tried calling again. I didn't answer. George came by. I pretended I wasn't home. I didn't want to talk to anyone. Didn't want to hear, "I told you so." Didn't want pity. I just wanted the report. 22 days after I hired Carlos, an email arrived. Subject line, Investigation Report, Kristelle Santos. My hand shook as I opened it. The report was 20 pages long, detailed, professional, devastating. Investigation findings. Subject name, Kristelle Santos. Age, claimed 22 years old. Location, claimed Cebu City. Philippines status. Identity cannot be confirmed as legitimate. Phone number analysis. The phone number provided, +63XXXXXXXXXX, is registered to a prepaid SIM card purchased in Manila, not Cebu. This number was activated 2 years ago and has been used to contact multiple foreign nationals. The number is currently disconnected. Address verification. The address provided, 123 Mabalo Street, Cebu City, does not exist. Mabalo Street exists, but there is no residential building at number 123. The entire block is commercial properties and a vacant lot. We conducted physical surveillance. No residential housing matches the description provided. Bank account analysis. The bank account provided belongs to a money mule network. Multiple deposits from foreign sources over the past 3 years, totaling approximately 8.7 million pesos, roughly 120,000 British pounds. The account holder's name is not Kristelle Santos. It is registered to a woman named Maria Reyes, age 54, who has 3 similar accounts used for receiving international transfers. Maria Reyes has been flagged by Philippine authorities for suspicious activity, but no charges have been filed. PHO2 analysis. We conducted a reverse image search on all photos provided. The photos you identified as Kristelle Santos are from the Instagram account of Jasmine Cortez, a 24-year-old social media influencer based in Manila. Her account has 47,000 followers and posts regularly about fashion and lifestyle. We contacted Ms. Cortez. She confirmed her photos have been stolen multiple times for scam operations. She was unaware of your situation specifically, but has filed complaints with police about identity theft. University verification. We contacted Cebu Doctors University. They have no student registered under the name Kristelle Santos, matching the age and description provided. They have no record of anyone matching this profile enrolled in their nursing program in the past 5 years. Conclusion. Based on our investigation, we conclude that the person you communicated with is not who they claim to be. The identity of Kristelle Santos appears to be entirely fabricated using stolen photos from a social media influencer. The money you sent was collected through money mule accounts and likely distributed to a criminal syndicate. The woman you communicated with, if they were a woman at all, was likely an operative working for a romance scam network. These operations are sophisticated and target vulnerable individuals, often widowers, with the goal of extracting maximum financial benefit before disappearing. We recommend you report this to UK Action Fraud and Philippine National Police. Contact your bank regarding potential fraud recovery. Cease all contact attempts. Seek support from romance scam victim advocacy groups. We are sorry to deliver this news. If you need additional verification or have questions, please contact us. I read it 3 times. Then I read it out loud to myself. My voice cracked on certain words. Fabricated, criminal syndicate, not who they claim to be. I printed the entire report, all 20 pages, laid them out on my kitchen floor next to the bank statements, next to the photos of Kristelle that weren't Kristelle, photos stolen from some poor woman named Jasmine who'd done nothing wrong except post pictures online. I looked at those photos differently now, tried to see the deception, tried to see how I'd been fooled, but they still looked like her, like the woman I'd talked to for 18 months, the woman I'd loved, except she wasn't a woman I'd loved. She was a character, a fiction, a mask worn by someone I'd never know. I tried to report it to the police. Went to the station, talked to a constable. He was sympathetic but realistic. Sir, I'm sorry, but the money's gone. These operations run out of internet cafes in Southeast Asia. They use stolen identities, burner phones, money mule accounts. Even if we could identify the perpetrators, which we can't, they're outside UK jurisdiction. Your best bet is to report it to Action Fraud. They'll log it, but recovery is unlikely. These scams are designed to be untraceable. So I just lose £130,000? That's it? There's no recourse? I'm afraid not, sir. This is why we run awareness campaigns about online romance scams. Once the money's transferred, it's essentially gone. I'm very sorry. I drove home, sat at my computer, tried to contact Kristelle one more time. Her WhatsApp was deleted. Her Facebook was deleted. The phone number was disconnected. Every trace of her was gone, like she'd never existed, because maybe she never had. I opened my laptop and went to Jasmine Cortez's Instagram, the real woman whose photos had been stolen. There she was, smiling, posing, living her life in Manila. The face I'd stared at for 18 months. But it wasn't Kristelle's face. It was never Kristelle's face, because Kristelle didn't exist. I read the investigator's report aloud to myself again. This time my voice didn't crack. It was flat, empty, dead. The identity of Kristelle Santos appears to be entirely fabricated. The woman you communicated with, if they were a woman at all, was likely an operative working for a romance scam network. If they were a woman at all, I hadn't even considered that. That maybe I'd been talking to a man. That maybe the voice on those video calls was manipulated. That maybe everything, every single thing, was a lie constructed to take my money. I sat on my kitchen floor surrounded by papers. The report, the bank statements, the printed WhatsApp conversations, the photos that weren't her. I picked up one photo, the one of her smiling at her desk with nursing textbooks. None of it was real. Not the desk, not the textbooks, not the smile, not her. My voice came out as a whisper, like I was confessing to an empty room, which I was. She was never real, and I gave her everything. I put my head down on the cold kitchen tile and closed my eyes. I couldn't cry anymore, couldn't feel anything anymore. I'd spent 18 months building a relationship with a ghost, with a fiction, with a criminal who saw me as nothing more than a mark, a lonely widower with money and no one to tell him no. I'd chosen her over Emma, over George, over Margaret's memory. I'd sold my dead wife's jewelry to send money to someone who didn't exist, and now that person was gone and I had nothing. No money, no dignity, no future. Nothing but debt and shame and the crushing realization that I'd destroyed my life for a lie. The foreclosure notice came 6 weeks after the investigator's report, bold red letters across the top. Final notice. Payment required within 30 days to avoid repossession. I'd missed 3 mortgage payments on the equity loan. The high-interest loans were in default. My credit cards were maxed out with minimum payments I couldn't make. The bank wanted their money, and I didn't have it. I sat at my kitchen table staring at that notice. This house, the house Margaret and I bought 32 years ago, the house where we raised Emma, where we'd celebrated Christmases and anniversaries, where Margaret died. Now I was going to lose it, because I'd sent £130,000 to a person who didn't exist. I hadn't left the house in weeks, hadn't showered in days. The place was a disaster. Dishes piled in the sink, post unopened on the floor. The wrapped gifts for Kristelle still sitting on the dining table like a memorial to my own stupidity. I couldn't bring myself to throw them away, couldn't bring myself to look at them, so they just sat there. A gold bracelet for a ghost, perfume for a phantom. Emma had stopped calling. I didn't blame her. She'd tried to warn me and I'd shut her out, chosen a scammer over my own daughter. What kind of father does that? What kind of man betrays his child for a stranger? The answer was sitting at this table. A broken, pathetic excuse for a man who'd lost everything because he couldn't accept that his wife was dead and his life was over. I thought about Margaret constantly, about what she'd think if she could see me now. Bankrupt, broken, having sold her jewelry, her mother's jewelry, to send money to a con artist. I'd betrayed her memory in the worst possible way. She'd worked her whole life, saved every penny, been careful with money, and I'd thrown it all away in 18 months. Thrown away 40 years of our shared life for a fiction. Some days I couldn't get out of bed. Just lay there staring at the ceiling thinking about how easy it would be to stop. To just stop. The pills were in the bathroom cabinet. Margaret's leftover pain medication from the cancer. Strong stuff. Enough to do the job. I'd held the bottle several times, read the label, calculated how many would be enough, then put it back. Because I was a coward. Too much of a coward to live properly and too much of a coward to end it. George came by one afternoon. I heard him knocking but didn't answer. Then I heard the sound of a key in the lock. He still had the spare key from when Margaret was sick. "Phil, you in here, mate?" I didn't respond. He walked through the house, calling my name, found me on the couch in the living room. I hadn't moved in 2 days, just laying there in the same clothes, unshaven, unwashed. "Jesus Christ, Phil. What's happened to you?" "Go away, George. Not a chance. When's the last time you ate?" "I don't know." Yesterday. Last week. Does it matter? He went to the kitchen. I heard him opening cupboards, running water. He came back with a glass of water and some biscuits. Eat, drink, then we're going to talk. I don't want to talk. Tough. You look like hell. The house looks like hell. Something's happened. Tell me. So I told him everything. About hiring the investigator, about the report, about the stolen photos and the fake identity and the money mule accounts, about the foreclosure notice, about having lost everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he just nodded. You were right, George, about everything. She was a scammer. I was an idiot. You can say I told you so now. I'm not going to say that. Why not? It's true. You tried to warn me and I called you an idiot and threw you out of my house. You have every right to gloat. Phil, you're not an idiot. You're a grieving widower who got targeted by professional criminals. These people are sophisticated. They know exactly what to say, how to play on your emotions. You're not the first person to fall for it, and you won't be the last. I sold Margaret's jewelry, George. Her engagement ring, the pearls she wore at our wedding. I sold them to send money to someone who doesn't exist. How is that not idiotic? How is that not unforgivable? Because you're human. You were lonely and in pain, and someone made you feel less alone. They exploited that. That's what predators do. They find the vulnerable and they strike. You didn't do anything wrong by wanting connection. They did wrong by manipulating you. I started crying. Properly crying for the first time since I'd read the report. George sat next to me and didn't say anything. Just sat there while I fell apart. When I finally stopped, my voice came out hoarse. I don't know what to do. The house is being foreclosed. I have no savings. I'm drowning in debt. My daughter won't speak to me. I ruined everything for a lie. First thing you do is call Emma. Today. Right now. She's your daughter. She loves you. She's probably terrified for you. She was right to be terrified. Look at me, so let her help. Stop being too proud to admit you need your daughter. What's the second thing? You deal with the debt, talk to the bank, talk to a financial advisor, see what can be restructured or negotiated. You're not the first person to face foreclosure. There are options. And the third thing? You forgive yourself. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. You made a mistake, a big one, but you're still here. You're still breathing, and as long as you're breathing, you can rebuild. I don't want to rebuild. I don't want to be here anymore. I lost Margaret, and then I lost everything trying to replace her. What's the point? George grabbed my shoulders and turned me to face him. His expression was serious, almost angry. The point is, you don't get to check out. You don't get to give up. Margaret wouldn't want that. Emma doesn't want that. Hell, I don't want that. You made a mistake. You got scammed by criminals who do this for a living. But you're not defined by this. You're defined by what you do next. And what do I do next? You call your daughter. You clean yourself up. You eat a proper meal. And you start figuring out how to move forward. One step at a time. Can you do that? I nodded. I didn't believe I could. But I nodded anyway. George stayed for 3 hours, made me shower, made me eat, sat with me while I called Emma. She answered on the first ring. Dad? Oh my God, Dad. I've been so worried. Where have you been? Why haven't you answered my calls? I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry for everything. Dad, are you okay? You sound terrible. I'm not okay. You were right. About Kristelle. About everything. She was a scam. I lost everything. The money, the house, everything. You tried to warn me and I wouldn't listen. I'm so sorry. There was silence on the other end. Then I heard her crying. Dad, I'm coming to Surrey. Right now. Don't do anything. Don't go anywhere. I'm leaving London now. I'll be there in an hour. Promise me you'll be there. I promise. I love you, Dad. We'll figure this out. Together. Just hold on. She hung up. George looked at me. See? You're not alone. You have people who care. You have a daughter who loves you, even though you were an arse to her. So you're going to fight, not because you want to, but because she deserves a father who doesn't give up. Emma arrived an hour later. She walked in and looked at the state of the house, at the state of me, and burst into tears. She hugged me and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not quite hope, but maybe something adjacent to it, the smallest possibility that maybe I could survive this. That night, after George left, Emma and I sat at the kitchen table. She'd cleaned up the worst of the mess, made tea, laid out the financial documents. Okay, Dad, let's see what we're dealing with. We went through everything. The debt, the foreclosure, the defaulted loans. She made notes, calculated numbers, looked up resources. After 2 hours, she had a plan. You're going to have to sell the house. There's no way around it. Between the equity loan and the missed payments, you're underwater. But if we sell quickly, we can pay off the major debts, and you might have a small amount left over. Maybe 20 or 30,000 pounds. You'll need to move somewhere smaller, a flat, something you can afford on your pension. This is Margaret's house, our house. I know, Dad, but it's just a building. Mum would rather you be solvent in a flat than bankrupt in a house full of memories. You know she would. She was right. Margaret was practical. She'd tell me to sell, to start over, to stop clinging to the past. And Emma, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. You tried to help and I pushed you away. I know. And I was angry. I've been angry for months. But Dad, I also understand. You loved Mum. And when she died, you lost yourself. You were vulnerable and someone took advantage of that. I don't blame you for being human. I just wish you'd let me help sooner. I thought I was saving her, Kristelle. I thought I was being a hero, helping someone in need, being useful again. Instead, I was just being used. That's what they count on. The need to feel useful, to feel needed. Dad, I need you, not your money. You, your presence, your advice, your terrible dad jokes. You're my father. That's enough. You don't have to save anyone to matter. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. When had she become so strong, so capable, so much like her mother? When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. Mum taught me that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get you back up. That night I slept in my own bed for the first time in weeks. Emma stayed in her old room. Before bed, I went to Margaret's photograph on the mantel, the one from our anniversary. I picked it up and held it close. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I forgot how to live without you. I'm sorry I betrayed your memory. I'm sorry I sold your jewelry and spent our savings and chose a stranger over our daughter. I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if I can forgive myself. But I'm going to try to fix this. I'm going to try to be the man you thought I was, the man you deserved. I'm going to try. I set the photograph back down, looked at it one more time. In my head, I heard her voice, the voice I'd know anywhere, the voice that got me through 40 years of life. Stop apologizing and start living, you daft old fool. I smiled. First real smile in months. Maybe she was right. Maybe that's what I needed to do. Stop apologizing for surviving. Stop punishing myself for being human. Stop living in the past. Just live. One day at a time. One small step forward. Starting tomorrow. The house sold in 6 weeks. A young couple with a baby bought it for £40,000 less than it was worth, but I didn't have the luxury of waiting for a better offer. The bank was already starting repossession proceedings. I took what they offered. After paying off the equity loan, the high-interest loans, and the mortgage payoff penalty, I was left with £32,000. $32,000 from a house Margaret and I had paid $200,000 for 30 years ago. From a life that should have been comfortable, should have been secure. Emma found me a small flat in Guildford. 1 bedroom. Top floor of a converted Victorian house. £700 a month rent. I could afford it on my pension if I was careful, if I never ate out. Never went on holiday. Never did anything except exist. But it was something. It was a roof. It was more than I deserved. Moving day was brutal. Packing up 32 years of memories into boxes, deciding what to keep and what to throw away. The furniture mostly went to charity shops, too big for the flat. Margaret's clothes I'd been avoiding for 18 months finally had to be dealt with. Emma helped me pack them, cried quietly while folding jumpers and dresses. We donated them to a cancer charity. It felt right. Some other woman would get use out of them. Margaret would have liked that. I kept very little. Margaret's photograph, our wedding album, a few books, basic necessities. The wrapped gifts for Kristelle stayed on the dining table until the last day. Emma finally asked about them. "Dad, what are those?" "Gifts. For her. For Kristelle. I bought them before I was supposed to fly to the Philippines. Before I knew." "Do you want to keep them?" "No. But I can't seem to throw them away either." "Then let me do it." She gathered them up. The gold bracelet, the perfume, the dresses, all of it. Threw them in a bin bag and took them to the car. I watched from the window as she drove away. When she came back, they were gone. She didn't tell me where she'd taken them. I didn't ask. They were gone. That's all that mattered. The flat was depressing at first. Small, bare, nothing like the house, nothing like home. But slowly I made it livable. Put up Margaret's photograph, arranged the books on a shelf. Emma brought me a small television. George brought me a chair from his garage. Bit by bit, it became a place I could exist in. Not thrive, just exist. Emma visited once a month. Every third Saturday, we'd have lunch at a cafe down the street. She'd update me on her life, her work, her boyfriend, who I'd never met and probably never would because I'd burned too many bridges. She was patient with me, kind, but there was a distance now that hadn't been there before. A cautiousness, like I was fragile, like I might break if she pushed too hard. Maybe I would. George came by more often. Every Tuesday, we'd watch football and drink tea and not talk about Kristelle, not talk about the money, not talk about what happened. Just sat and existed in each other's company. Sometimes that was enough. 3 months after moving into the flat, Emma suggested I join a support group, romance scam victims. They met every other Thursday in Woking. I resisted at first. Didn't want to sit in a room full of people and admit what I'd done. Didn't want to hear other people's stories and see myself reflected back. But Emma insisted, so I went. The first meeting was awful. Sitting in a circle of chairs in a community center. 10 people, most of them older, most of them men, all of them with the same defeated look, the same shame. The facilitator introduced herself. Linda, mid-50s, warm smile. She explained the rules. No judgment, no advice unless asked, just sharing, just support. People told their stories. A retired teacher who'd sent £40,000 to a woman in Vietnam he'd never met. A widowed builder who'd given his online girlfriend £70,000 before discovering she was actually 3 men in Lagos. A divorced accountant who'd maxed out his credit cards and lost his flat for someone claiming to be a Russian model. Story after story, each one a variation of the same con, each one ending in loss and shame and regret. When it was my turn, I almost left, almost walked out, but I stayed. I told them about Kristelle, about the 18 months, about the £130,000, about selling Margaret's jewelry, about the house, about everything. When I finished, no one looked shocked. No one looked disgusted. They just nodded, like they understood, because they did. They'd all been there. A woman in her 60s named Patricia spoke up. "How long ago did you find out?" 4 months ago. "The investigator's report came 4 months ago. And how are you sleeping?" "Not well. I keep replaying conversations, looking for clues I missed, wondering how I was so blind. That's normal. It'll get better. Not quickly, but it will. The guilt is the hardest part. Feeling stupid, feeling like you should have known. But these people are professionals. They're trained to manipulate. You didn't stand a chance. I should have listened to my daughter, to my friend. Everyone tried to warn me. We all had people warning us. It's part of the process. The scammer isolates you, makes you defensive, makes everyone else seem like the enemy. By the time you realize what's happening, you're alone and in too deep to back out without admitting you were wrong. So you keep going, keep sending money, keep believing, because believing is easier than facing the truth. I went back the next week, and the week after that. It didn't make me feel better exactly, but it made me feel less alone, less like I was the only fool in the world who'd fallen for this. The stories were all the same and all different. Different countries, different amounts, different tactics, but the same core: loneliness, vulnerability, exploitation, and the same ending: loss. 6 months after moving to the flat, I stopped checking Kristelle's WhatsApp, stopped looking at Jasmine Cortez's Instagram, stopped torturing myself with what I'd lost. The money was gone. The relationship was never real. I couldn't change any of it. I could only move forward, or try to. I got a part-time job at a hardware store, 10 hours a week, minimum wage. I didn't need the money urgently, but I needed something to do, some reason to leave the flat, some structure to my days. The manager knew I was overqualified, a retired civil engineer selling hammers and paint, but he hired me anyway. Maybe he sensed I needed it, or maybe he just needed someone who'd show up. The work was mindless: restocking shelves, helping customers find nails, operating the till. But it was something, and sometimes something is enough. One afternoon, about 8 months after the investigator's report, I was sitting in the flat holding Margaret's photograph. I did this often, talked to her picture like she could hear me, told her about my day, about Emma, about George, about the support group, about how I was trying. She never answered, obviously, but it helped, made me feel less alone. I'm sorry I forgot how to live without you. I'm sorry I let grief turn me into someone I don't recognize. I'm sorry I dishonored your memory. I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if I can forgive myself. But I'm trying now. I'm trying to live. Not because I want to, but because I'm still here, and maybe that means something. I set the photograph down, made myself tea, sat at my small kitchen table and looked around the flat. It wasn't much. A life reduced to 400 square feet and a part-time job and monthly visits from my daughter. But it was mine. I'd survived. Barely. But I'd survived. I'd never get the money back. I'd never know who I'd really been talking to. I'd never understand how I'd been so blind. I'd never stop regretting what I'd lost. But I was still here, still breathing, still trying. And some days, that had to be enough. A year after it all ended, Emma visited on her regular Saturday. We had lunch at the cafe. She looked at me across the table and smiled. You look better, Dad. Healthier. I'm trying. It's slow, but I'm trying. I'm proud of you. I know that doesn't mean much after everything, but I am. Proud that you didn't give up. Proud that you're still fighting. Some days I don't feel like I'm fighting. Some days I'm just existing, just surviving. That's fighting too. Survival is fighting. You're still here. That matters. We finished lunch, walked back to the flat together. She hugged me goodbye like she always did. I love you, Dad. I love you too, Emma. Thank you for not giving up on me. I never gave up on you. I was angry. I was hurt. But I never gave up, and I never will. She drove away. I went back inside, looked at Margaret's photograph. Our daughter is amazing. You raised her right. She's stronger than both of us. I made dinner, watched television, went to bed, got up the next morning and did it again and again. Day after day, week after week, existing, surviving, moving forward in inches. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't closure. But it was life, and I was still here, breathing, trying, learning to forgive myself slowly, learning to accept that I'd made a mistake, a massive, devastating mistake that cost me everything, but I was still here. I never heard from Kristelle again, never got an explanation, never got closure, The person I'd talked to for 18 months simply disappeared like they'd never existed, because maybe they never had. Maybe Kristelle was just a name and a voice and a collection of stolen photos. Maybe she was a man in Manila. Maybe she was a woman in Cebu. Maybe she was multiple people taking shifts. I'd never know, and eventually, I stopped needing to know. The why didn't matter. The how didn't matter. What mattered was that I was still here, and I was done looking back. I opened my laptop one evening, went to the support group's website. They had a section for people to share their stories anonymously, to warn others, to help others avoid the same fate. I started typing. My name is Phillip. I'm 63 years old. I'm a widower, and I lost 130,000 pounds to someone I never met. This is my story. I wrote for 3 hours, told everything, the whole pathetic tale. When I finished, I read it back. It sounded insane. How could anyone be so stupid? How could anyone send that much money to a stranger? But I had, and thousands of others had too, and thousands more would, because loneliness makes you vulnerable, because grief makes you desperate, because hope makes you blind. I posted the story anonymously, closed my laptop, went to bed. The next morning, I woke up and checked the site. My story had 47 comments, all of them from other victims, all of them saying the same thing. Thank you for sharing. I thought I was alone. This sounds exactly like what happened to me. You're brave for telling your story. I wasn't brave. I was just tired of being ashamed, tired of hiding, tired of pretending this hadn't happened. It had happened. I'd been scammed. I'd lost everything, and I was still here. Barely, but here. That afternoon, I went to the cemetery. First time since Margaret's funeral. I'd been avoiding it. Too much guilt, too much shame. But I needed to go. Needed to talk to her. Really talk to her. Not to her photograph. To her. I sat on the grass next to her headstone. Margaret Morrison, beloved wife and mother, 1960 to 2023. We'd picked simple. She'd have wanted simple. Hi, love. I know it's been a while. I'm sorry. I've been a mess. You'd be disappointed in me. I know you would. I sold your jewelry, spent our savings, lost the house, alienated Emma, all for someone who didn't exist. I made every wrong choice possible. I forgot how to live without you, and I nearly destroyed myself trying to fill the emptiness you left behind. The wind rustled through the trees. A bird sang somewhere, life continuing around me, around her. But I'm still here. I'm in a tiny flat in Guildford, working at a hardware store, trying to rebuild what I destroyed. Emma visits once a month. We're getting there, slowly. George still talks to me even though I don't deserve it. I'm going to this support group, telling my story, maybe helping others avoid what I went through. I touched her headstone, cold granite under my fingers. I'll never get over it, what I did, what I lost, but I'm still here, still breathing, still trying, and maybe that's what you'd want, for me to keep trying, to keep living, even when it's hard, even when I don't want to. So that's what I'm doing. I'm living, for Emma, for George, for you, but mostly for me, because I have to, because giving up isn't an option. I stood up, brushed off my trousers, looked at her name one more time. I love you, Margaret. I'll always love you. But I'm learning to love myself again, too. Learning to forgive myself. It's slow, but it's happening. I hope you can be proud of that. I hope you can forgive me. I'm working on forgiving myself. I walked back to my car, drove back to the flat, made dinner, watched television, went to bed, got up the next morning, went to work, came home, repeated, day after day. This was my life now, small, quiet, diminished, but mine, and I was still here. That had to count for something. 2 years after it all ended, Emma called with news. She was getting married. Her boyfriend Jake finally proposed. They wanted a small wedding, just family and close friends. She wanted me there, wanted me to walk her down the aisle. Are you sure, Emma? After everything I put you through? Dad, You're my father. Of course I'm sure. You made mistakes. You owned them. You're rebuilding. That's all I ever wanted. For you to fight. To survive. You're doing that. So yes, I'm sure. The wedding was small. 20 people. A registry office in London. Emma looked beautiful. Jake seemed like a good man. Kind, patient. The kind of man who'd take care of my daughter. I walked her down the aisle and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness. Not quite. But something close. Something like peace. At the reception, Emma pulled me aside, hugged me tight. Thank you for being here, Dad. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for not giving up on me. I didn't deserve your forgiveness, but you gave it anyway. You're my dad. You'll always be my dad. The mistakes don't change that. I held my daughter and felt the weight of the last 3 years. The grief, the loneliness, the scam, the loss, the shame, the rebuilding, all of it. And I survived. I survived because she hadn't given up on me. Because George hadn't given up on me. Because somewhere deep down, I hadn't completely given up on myself. 3 years after it ended, I wrote a letter. Not to send, just to write, to get the words out, to say what I needed to say. Dear Kristelle, or whoever you really are, I'll never know your real name. I'll never know if you were one person or many, a woman or a man, someone in the Philippines or somewhere else entirely. It doesn't matter anymore. You took 130,000 pounds from me. You took my savings, my security, my dignity. You exploited my grief and my loneliness. You made me believe I mattered to you when all I was to you was money. I hated you for a long time, hated myself more, but I'm done hating. Hate takes energy I don't have. You won. You got the money. You got away clean. I'll never see a penny back. I'll never get justice. But I got something you'll never take from me. I got my life back. I got my daughter back. I got myself back. You left me with nothing but debt and shame. And I built something from that. Not much, but something. A small, flat, a part-time job, monthly visits from my daughter, a few good friends, a support group, a reason to get up in the morning. That's more than you'll ever have. You'll always be looking over your shoulder, always hiding, always lying, always moving to the next victim. I'm done being your victim. I'm just a man trying to rebuild, trying to forgive himself, trying to live. And some days, that's enough. I'll never forgive you. But I'm learning to forgive myself, and that's the only thing that matters. Phillip. I folded the letter, put it in an envelope, wrote, to Kristelle on the front. Then I burned it in my sink. Watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. Gone. Like her. Like the person I was when I met her. Gone. All of it. And I was still here. Different. Damaged. But here, the flat is small. The job is boring. The money is tight. My retirement isn't what it should have been. Isn't what Margaret and I planned. But I'm alive. I'm trying. I'm surviving. Emma visits regularly. George stops by for football. The support group meets every other Thursday. I have a routine, a life. Not the life I wanted, not the life I imagined, but mine. Sometimes I still think about Kristelle, about those 18 months, about the conversations that felt so real, about the voice messages I listened to 3 times before bed, about believing I mattered to someone, about believing I'd found connection again. It still hurts, probably always will, but the hurt is different now. Not sharp, just dull, just there, a reminder, a scar. I look at Margaret's photograph every morning, tell her about my day, about Emma and Jake, about work, about the flat, about how I'm managing. She doesn't answer, but I hear her voice in my head sometimes, usually saying something sarcastic, something like stop moping and make yourself useful, or you're tougher than you think, you daft fool. She'd be right. I am tougher than I thought, because I'm still here. After everything, still here. I'll never get over what happened. I'll never stop regretting those 18 months. I'll never stop wishing I'd listened to Emma and George. I'll never stop feeling the weight of what I lost. But I'm still here, still breathing, still trying, learning to live again, learning to forgive myself, slowly, painfully, but learning. And maybe that's the point. Not to forget, not to move on, just to keep going, one day at a time, one small step forward, because I'm still here, and that has to mean something. It has to be worth something, even if just to me, even if just to prove I could survive, that I didn't give up, that I'm still fighting. I'm 65 years old now. I work at a hardware store. I live in a small flat in Guildford. I have 32,000 pounds left to my name. I lost over 100,000 to someone I never met, someone who might not have been real, and I'm still here, learning to live with it, learning to live with myself, learning to forgive. It's not happiness, it's not redemption, it's not closure, but it's life, and I'm grateful for it, even after everything, especially after everything, because I survived, and survival, I've learned, is its own kind of victory.